friends, welcome in to the Eric Zane Show podcast, a daily show where I discuss news, nonsense, and my personal adventures each and every day from right here in the Impact Power Sports Studio, Impact Power Sports. They are online at impactpowersportsmi.com. Great place to pick up a side-by-side, ATV, UTV. How about a Yamaha golf cart if that's your thing? I think you got to be cash heavy to own a golf cart. I mean, let's be honest about that. Anyway, they have everything you need. impactpowersportsmi.com. They are in Rockford, Michigan. Thank you so much to them for being part of this show. So, where I live, it's like the ice planet Hoth. It won't be above 20 degrees for the foreseeable future. Right now, it's a balmy 11. On Friday night, it was minus 15. So I'm pulling out onto the road up here, and as I'm making my turn, my tires on my truck are spinning, so I'm having a hard time getting up to speed, and I see, there's cars coming up behind me. They're going to hook. So I'm like, I better get going. So I'm doing my best to get up to speed. No big deal. Of the two lanes going my direction, there's a car, and then behind me is a truck. And I see he's like making no effort to slow down, so he gets right up behind me. And then he gets over, and he's now going to pass me. He can't, though, because the vehicle that's in that lane is just one car length ahead of me. So he can't do it. But he's about, I am not kidding you, 6 inches from the bumper of the car in front of him. So I'm like, okay, I need to tell this guy to fuck off. So I get next to him, and I roll on the window, and I scream as loud as I can, slow the fuck down! And he looks at me, and I don't know if he recognized me or what, but he laughed, and then he stomped the gas and got into the middle lane and passed both of us in the center lane. He takes off like a fucking bat out of hell and races down the road away from me. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to fucking chase you. I don't know. I thought he thought maybe it was like a Dukes of Hazzard moment, but I really felt like I should have just not said anything and just kept blocking him from getting over, I don't know what it is. Nick says maybe his son's thumb was injured. He was traveling safe, but at 80 miles an hour. Okay, I see where you're going with that. That's awesome. Ben Glaze says people like that cause accidents. They do. I was just so hopeful. I mean, if you drive that aggressively, honest to God, there's got to be plenty of times where you're actually causing a wreck or something like that. Oh, shit. Look at this hair. It's out of control. I've been wearing the hat for so long that my head's starting to itch. Gah! Anyway. Drove home yesterday from visiting Dad. And it was kind of like a bad deal for motorists because it was snowing like crazy all the way across the state. But I got to get home. And Pooh Bear says, we're not going to travel. We're just going to stay here. I go, honey, we got to get home. There's shit that has to be done. No, we're driving. And it really wasn't that bad because it's so damn cold. The snow hits the pavement and it blows off of it like shifting sands in the desert. And so the pavement is basically clear, just a little icy. So I just kept it slow. I don't think I got over 55 miles an hour. But there were plenty of people ditched, plenty of people passing me. And I'm like, good luck with that shit. I just took it fucking easy. And it was cool. Just took an hour longer than what it normally does. But we got there safe. Got to spend time with Dad, Joanne. We had a euchre party. We pigged out. It was great. And Charity Scam Mike is the crankiest motherfucker ever. First thing in the morning. So he gets up, and we're all up now, but he wants to go back to bed. He had slept on this couch. Now I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm sitting on his blanket that he covered up with. But he wants to go back to bed, but I don't know that. And so he gets pissed off at me because I'm sitting on his couch. And he goes, give me that. And he's just hysterically fussy. He yanks the blanket out from under me, and I'm just looking at him. Now, there's a bed upstairs at this place. He could just go. That's the one I was sleeping in. I go, he gets in this recliner, and as he's getting into it, I go, why don't you just go upstairs? And he goes, why don't you go to hell? He gives me a go to hell. Oh, God. And boy, did I laugh. Bob says there were so many plow accidents here yesterday. One rolled over and another private company got wedged under a highway overpass. Yeah, I know that, you see, Michigan, for a change, didn't get hammered as much as the rest of the country. This ridiculous snow ice disaster stayed south of the state somehow. And, but an enormous swath of the country just got leveled. A lot of the places that got hammered, they're not really used to snow. There's a video that I've got of, I don't have it now. I had it, but then I don't.
How would you describe it on that video?
Of some chick in Alabama sledding down a hill, and she wiped out. I gotta find this. Alabama sledding head. Alabama sledding accident. Some chick is going down a hill at a high rate of speed, and then whammo! I can't find it now. Doesn't matter. Anyway, that was part of my weekend. Chris says it's a great video. It really was a great video. I don't know if you're just saying that because I couldn't get it or because you've already seen it. Bob says, we got slammed with snow. My truck bed is full with fallen snow. All right. So I wanted to open up with that. But the big thing that happened over the weekend is the death of that guy in Minneapolis. This is a disaster. I'll get to that video probably in the second half of the show today after the staff meeting. So as the day unfolds on Saturday, I saw a couple of clips of something going on in Minnesota. And it was the usual thing, people. And I hadn't really gotten into it. I go, well, someone was shot. And so then when I watched it, and I was like, what am I seeing? At first, I was a little confused because the guy who got killed, Alex Preddy, it looked like he was, it didn't look like he was helping the chick who got pepper sprayed. I was like, what is he doing? And then I'm like, the ICE agent's trying to get him to stop assaulting that chick? No. So then I finally figured it out. I just want to talk first before we get into a video breakdown. But I saw him standing on the road, phone in one hand, the huge. And then the next thing you know, ICE guy starts pushing people that are doing that. Yeah, whatever, calling ICE people names and blaring horns and shit. One gets pushed, two gets pushed. Preddy goes to help Chick. Preddy and Chick get pepper sprayed. Next thing I see, Preddy on ground. Preddy shot what seemed like a dozen times. And holy fuck. And that was insane. And I was just shocked by it, as I think everybody was. And then I saw that there was an outstanding video compilation of all of the angles in the murder of Preddy. And I want to get into that. I'm trying to make sense of this all. And pretty much
Federal
all I can
immigration
do is come up
officers
with
fatally
that this was a murder. We watched a murder. My God.
Federal immigration officers fatally shot a man Saturday in Minneapolis. He was an ICU nurse who worked at a local Veteran Affairs hospital. Another controversial...
This video, by the way, has pieced together all of the videos that were there to give you a timeline of events.
Nurse who worked at a local Veteran Affairs hospital. Another controversial killing by U.S. immigration agents. And the second U.S. citizen killed this month. CNN analyzed cell phone footage from multiple angles. Taken together, they appear at odds with the Department of Homeland Security's initial claims about the lead-up to officers firing on Alex Preddy. Around 9 a.m. Central, video captures two people approaching a federal immigration Preddy firing on Alex Preddy.
Homeland Security's account of what happened was they were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien wanted for violent assault. An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. That is not accurate. It was on his waist. It was a concealed pistol. But he wasn't waving it or he wasn't brandishing it. The way that's written, that makes it seem like he was brandishing it. That didn't happen. The officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted, fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers. And agent fired defensive shots. Medics on scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, both pronounced dead at the scene. The subject also had 2 magazines and no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
Preddy. Around 9 a.m. Central, video captures 2 people approaching a federal immigration officer in front of an unidentified vehicle. The sound of whistles is blaring in the background. Alex Preddy enters the frame here. He's filming an officer interacting with protesters and waving a car through. 15 seconds later, Preddy yells,
"Hey, do not push them into the traffic."
In their statement, DHS said that an individual approached officers with, quote, a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. This video seems to show officers approaching Preddy instead of the other way around. We'll see later that
Okay, you see this chick, she's hanging on to him like, oh, fuck, she's kind of scared. So this guy comes to Preddy. It isn't, Preddy did not go to them.
Preddy does appear to have had a gun in his waistband, but this video shows he didn't have a gun in his hand, only a phone. Video from this white car shows an up-close angle of a federal immigration officer pushing one protester. Then, 3 seconds later, he pushes Preddy. And then, as the camera comes into focus, you see the same federal officer push a third protester with the orange backpack. Preddy raises his hand and turns away, just as the officer sprays him with a chemical irritant. You see Preddy and the other protester trying to help the person with the orange backpack. You can see here an officer pulling Preddy off of this person. 3 more officers join, and then 2 more. Preddy is on the ground under them. One officer in a tan beanie can be seen repeatedly striking Preddy's head with a metal can. You can see an officer in a gray jacket walk into the frame. There isn't a gun in his hand. Seconds later, officers shout, The officer removes the gun from Preddy's belt. The officer steps away from the scene carrying a firearm, seen here in his right hand. Then, gunfire. At least 10 shots ring out. We looked back at the scene from different angles and slowed down the footage. This officer, wearing a black...
Okay, at this point, I think that the guy who yelled gun, maybe it gave this guy the yips here. This dude. Because this dude here is the one who fired the first bullet from up close.
Beanie can be seen drawing his firearm and pointing it in Preddy's direction. We can't see his gun when the first shot is fired, but we can see that this officer fired the second shot. In this angle, you see a second officer also had his gun drawn, and here, he's pointing his weapon at Preddy as we hear gunshots, though it isn't clear if he's the one firing.
What the Did they kill that guy?
Preddy collapses onto the ground as the officers scatter backwards from around him. The same agent in the black beanie from earlier can be seen firing 5 final shots as Preddy lies there, motionless. Nobody approached his body for 24 seconds. When officers do return to Preddy, they appear to begin searching his body.
I heard somebody say, "Where's the gun?"
Video shows that about a minute after Preddy collapsed, immigration officers ask for medical support. When CNN asked DHS about the officer removing the gun before the shooting, DHS repeated their earlier statement, quote, "Officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted."
Okay, so that's not true at all. They did disarm the suspect. Okay. I honestly don't know how anybody could look at that and not think that this was murder. I just don't understand it. Stacy says, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Nick says these guys have zero training. Actual law enforcement are trained to de-escalate situations. Well, I don't think that they're in the business to de-escalate. I think they're in the business to apprehend people that are in the country illegally. And I think that how this has been amping up over time, they're all very, very frantic, no doubt. These people that are running ICE, that are the ICE representatives or the agents, I'm sure every minute and day that passes, they're also concerned about somebody just showing up and shooting them. I'll bet you that they are amped up beyond belief. So that has to be considered. I just don't understand the defending of it. And I think what always gets me about this is how the government keeps spinning this as, in this case, Alex Preddy as being like a domestic terrorist, or we can see with our eyes what's happening, yet they're telling you that he approached them with a gun, and they're telling you that he approached the agents when it was the other way around. I think that to me is, again, like in the other case, that's, in my opinion, equally disturbing. It's horrible to see somebody killed like that. But the government knows what happened with their own eyes, and they're telling you that something else happened. Bob says, I saw one very long but very good explanation of the situation. It's all around terrible, but it is barely justified. I don't know how that could be. How could this be a justified murder? Maybe you're looking for the right word, and justified isn't the right word. I don't think that there's any justifying this. There is no justifying this. Let's see. Bob says, personally, I blame SIG. It looks like the gun did what SIGs do, discharge without an actual trigger pull. Not known. Not known at all. Rich says, first and foremost, yes, it was a murder. It is clear that ICE will use lethal force whenever they feel like it. Don't interfere with their duties because it will certainly kill again. Bob points out that the gun discharged. I don't know. I think you're talking out of your asshole when you say that. That's not known. Stacy says, you keep saying that, but he didn't have his gun. The officer who took it had it. So the suggestion is being that the officer who took it, the gun discharged on him. That is maybe not. No one knows that. David says, what the hell? That is fucked up. Nick in Houston is here. He says, Amanda wants to say, quote, hey, it's okay for them to think about murdering that guy, but not cool that they actually did it. Hey! Everybody knows that robbing a bank is the same as molesting children. Hey! Rich says ICE is sending a clear signal. Stop getting involved in their business or they will use lethal force. Yeah, I don't know, but that this is the first time that I've actually thought for, I mean, you know how like many times people have thrown out the United States and the Nazis thing, the Trump administration and the Nazis, ICE and the Nazis. This is the first time that I'm starting to agree with that. This seems now like that is on the table. Black Belt Nick says a simple solution: don't insert yourself into active engagement zones. Yeah, I don't know if it's acceptable to tell people to stay home. I mean, I wouldn't do it myself, and I think it's nuts. But at the same time, Kyle Rittenhouse did this, except he was waving around the weapon when he did it, and he killed a few people, and everybody looked at him as a hero. All right? This guy just happened to be carrying, not waving it around, and now he's dead. I mean, I agree with you. I wouldn't do it either, but this is bullshit. This is ridiculous. Replying to Nick's statement of the simple solution, don't insert yourself into engagement zones, Becca Shea says, yeah, let's just fall into complete fascism. Stacy says, so it's not barely justified. Bob says, but he did have a weapon. So what? I have a weapon all the time. Does that mean I should be shot? And disobeyed official orders. I didn't hear any official orders. I may not have been clear that he was disarmed in the scuffle and they were reacting to hearing the first shot. Yeah, we don't know where the first shot came from. I think the first shot, it might not have been the Sig Sauer. I would assume it was just the guy shooting him in the back. That's not known. There is nothing wrong with having a weapon and telling somebody to go fuck themselves. You can do that. I apologize for the longer than normal pauses. It's always long, but today I'm reading and making sure to read these comments carefully. PSN Bleach says they offer and have no right to order a citizen to do anything. They approached and attacked a citizen. 100%. Starman says it's like watching someone who hates trains try and protest trains by sitting on the tracks knowing full well what a train is, can, and will do. I don't know. Piano Fingerbanger says all these ICE assholes are just untrained losers who are cosplaying as G.I. Joes. Yeah, whatever. I've heard all the insults about these people. Bread Bull Brain Chris says SIGs don't randomly go off. It's one particular model that has an issue. Murder Lover Linda says you cannot pick and choose when people can lawfully carry a weapon. He had a permit and he wasn't brandishing it. So I guess my thing is he had a weapon on him. Big deal. I don't care about that. What if he didn't? What if he didn't have a weapon and he ends up getting murdered like this? Which is entirely plausible. What excuse are people making for ICE at that point? Megan says, I actually don't know this, but I thought Tizzy said something about the Proud Boys leader and PBs are ICE agents now. That wouldn't surprise me. You'd think that a lot of those Jan 6 bastards would try to be ICE agents. Chris says absolutely fucking disgusted with this country, and unfortunately I voted for this. I'll admit it. Becca Shea says, took you long enough, EZ. What are you talking about? What are you suggesting? Rebecca says, by that logic, we should all take a seat and let the horrible shit happen. It is murder, and the people who can stop it aren't. Becca Shea says the Hitler reference. Well, I don't think that any of the things that happened before were of the level to actually utilize that. I'm less likely to drop the Hitler reference. You see, people oftentimes drop the Hitler reference on like 100 different things, and then one thing comes back and it fits. And it's, see? That's what's happening here. But in this particular case, it's hard to not see that happening. Let's see. Clown of Carnage says protest, not engage an officer trying to make an arrest. Completely different. That's not what happened, though. You watched what I watched. You saw the agent went up to him. They were standing there blowing whistles and waving and calling them assholes. That's the extent of it. That's what they're doing. Do I think that's crazy? Yes. Do I think that people should get in the way of ICE getting people out of the country? No. Are ICE getting a lot of violent people out of the country? Of course they are. Am I happy with that? Yes. But if ICE guy gets fed up with people blowing whistles and screaming at him, and then somebody winds up dead, shit. Nick in Houston says the NRA has come out in support of the dude, the guy who died, Alex Preddy. He says that's huge. Well, yeah, that's the number one thing of their what they're all about. So whatever. And he wasn't waving the gun. You know, also the way they are, the way the government is leaning into the whole thing about, oh my God, he had a gun on him. Republicans have fought tooth and nail over that. You know, for once, it's weird to have them being attacking towards someone who actually had a gun on him and he just had the gun. He wasn't doing anything with the gun. And so now they're flipping that around. And I think that anybody who is both a Trump supporter and a Second Amendment supporter, you're conflicted. Nick says, I'm not supporting the shooter, and I'm saying he shouldn't be there when they're actively arresting someone. He put himself in a terrible situation and lost his life. Megan says more about the NRA. She said the NRA came out and spoke against the government tweets, which said if you walk up to an officer with a gun, you can expect to get shot. Donko says over half of the voting population thinks this is fine, and the other half does not. I don't even know what is right and wrong anymore. Maybe that's their objective. There was somebody in my post when I posted that video who wrote, this was a good kill. I think that as time has passed, people's humanity has left them. It really has. Nick says, easy, what's the first thing you say to a cop if you are carrying and they stop you? Well, typically they'll ask, but if they ask, you tell them. But, yeah, it's a safe practice when I get pulled over to inform them. I don't understand why you're asking me that. What does that have to do with this? Are you trying to apply what a traffic stop is to a guy walking down the street telling ICE to go fuck themselves? Bob says the difference is you don't argue and fight cops while armed. Well, he didn't fight cops. Again, I think that you guys are so clouded. In particular, you get people who watch that video, and what you're not seeing, you don't see what I see. The guy did not engage ICE. They engaged him. If you watch it again, they approached him. They pushed the chick. He's helping her up. That's when they grabbed him and threw him on the ground. He didn't attack them. I think it's important that when you're watching these things, you actually trust your eyes and your sensibility and not your preconceived notions of how you think it's going to go and if it aligns with what your brain thinks about politics in the first place. There was no fighting while armed. They grabbed him and threw his ass down. They yanked his gun out, and then they shot him 10 times. Nick says he inserted himself to stop the arrest. Again, you're not seeing what the rest of the world is seeing. You need to watch it again and show me. He was backing up. He put his hand up to try not to get sprayed in the face. He tried to help the chick up. At no point did he get... Trust me, I've watched it. I want to be the first person. I was the guy when Renee Good got shot who said, I totally see how that cop thought he was about to get run over, and it was awful but lawful. I was the first person to say that. I was the only person to say that. And I would love to throw these assholes under the bus. I couldn't do it on that one. On this one, I don't know how anybody could say that Alex Preddy is the reason for this. And I love you guys, but that's not true. Ashley says, oh my God, I love you so fucking much. But this is literally bumming me out. Well, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. But it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen. Megan says it sucks big time, but we can't ignore it. Oh, 100%. Can you imagine if I didn't talk about that? My ass would be kicked. Cole, who's a cock, says there's no all this and all that. Each incident is its own thing. They fucked this one up. The shooter should stand trial. Don't care that he had a gun. Everyone should have a gun. Outstanding comment there, Cole, from someone who's generally a cocksucker that we love very much. I think that might be the most poignant comment of them all. Wolverine Bronco is here. We don't hear from Wolverine Bronco that much, but when we do, it's great. There is no statute of limitations for murder, so hopefully there is justice when we get rid of this Nazi regime. Well, whatever. I don't think it's a Nazi regime, but whatever. Ben Glaze says to Nick the black belt he was standing there filming. And then Ben points this out. Once again, easy, correct on all of this. Love that you cover this stuff the way that you do and aren't afraid to. Hey, that's how you keep 40-plus audience members at one time, Ben Glaze. 40. Becca Shea says, I heard that Trump said he would take all the ICE agents out of Minnesota if they turn over their voters' registration data. I don't know. I'm always a little bit concerned when it starts with, I heard that, you know? I mean, maybe not. Megan says, do you think, is talking to Don and says, do you think that over 50% think it's right? Or do you think the idea of ICE nonviolent version is what they think is right? Yeah, I don't know. I think that the ones that aren't speaking up on the right are the ones that they're just being complicit with it. Okay. Let's see. Nick, Black Belt Nick says, because if they don't know he has a gun and resist, that changes the reaction and the legality of their actions. Yeah, you know, I think all that we need to focus on is just what your eyes saw. Helping chick up after she got pepper sprayed. Next thing you know, he's down on the ground. You got a guy on each leg and a guy on each arm, and then people holding the body down. I mean, let's think about that. If you go back on this video,
with a chemical irritant. You see Preddy and the other protester trying to help the person with the orange backpack.
Okay, so he's looking. That's what I thought. I was like, what's he doing to her? So he's helping her, and then they yank him off.
You can see here an officer pulling Preddy off of this person. 3 more officers
Now he's down.
join, and then 2 more.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys.
Preddy
out.
is on the ground under them.
I'm looking at the one that's not through the car.
One officer in a tan beanie can be seen repeatedly striking Preddy's head with a metal can. You can see an officer in a gray jacket walk into the frame. There isn't a gun in his hand. Seconds later,
Okay, I'm looking only at Preddy.
officers shout,
Gun.
the officer removes a gun from Preddy's belt. The officer steps away from the scene carrying a firearm.
That was all pretty quick, though. The amount of time after he yanks the gun and then this idiot shoots him
Seen here in
is
his right
fast.
hand.
It's
Then
half a second,
gunfire.
1 second. The only benefit of the doubt I'll give is that Ding Dong, who pulled his pistol first, saw the gun and freaked. And saw a hand grab it, which was one of his comrades there, and maybe thought that somehow in the blur of the moment, there was that Preddy was getting the gun and someone was going to get shot. Big Buddha says, if I followed GRPD around all day blowing whistles and trying to prevent them from doing their job, I know it wouldn't end up well for me. What do you mean? This is 100% political. Minneapolis politicians are doing nothing to diffuse the situation and instead are pouring gas on the fire. How? Piano Finger Banger says, easy. Have you seen the videos of U.S. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino wearing what looks like an SS trench coat? These people are fucking wannabe. I did see that. I did see him wearing that. I'm like, oh, of all the coats to wear, don't wear that one. Amy says, since we know Freebird Hoppings will be ignoring this topic, what exciting topic do you think they will be talking about? Double bag bread? PSN Bleach says he tried to help someone who was assaulted by a group of masked thugs, and then they shot him. Pretty much. Don says there are hundreds or maybe thousands of protesters. It's a violent scene, and let's not forget that the ICE agents are people too. Adrenaline gets pumping, tensions are high, both sides are equally convinced they are morally superior to the other. Red Bull Brain Chris says even if Preddy's gun did go off, there are 9 other shots after that. I mean, they filled them full of lead. Wolverine Broncos says it's not just hearsay. AG Pam Bondi sent a letter to the Minnesota governor saying if they hand over Minnesota's voter rolls, then she would consider pulling out ICE. Voter rolls were just one of the demands. This letter was made public. Tyler says, you're telling me dude was outnumbered 8-1 and these assholes weren't able to physically restrain him? Piano Finger Banger says one group is exercising their First Amendment rights. The other group is there to intimidate and cause chaos for no fucking reason. All right. I think I'm all caught up. Thank you for your comments. And that's fucked up. Bruce is staring in the corner like the kid from fucking Blair Witch Project. Bruce. Hey. Brucey. Pouting. All right. Well, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like the play? Thank you to Josh for sending along the sledding video of Chick in Alabama, who I think Alex Preddy had a better chance of surviving what happened to him more than this chick. This poor thing. University of Alabama, they get snow. Or I'm sorry, it was University of Arkansas. That's what screwed me up. They get snow there. Keep an eye on this chick as she goes down the hill. I need to know what happened to her. It's a great noise. That is a pull at the bottom of the hill. These are stupid people. Why in the world? They've got all this area that they can sled, and they go directly toward the pole? What? My God. Let's go down right where the pole is. That's a good idea. Hey, where should we go? We've got all this area. Let's go down right where the immovable metal object is. What a stupid catastrophe. Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Howe tried to get back at me for some reason. There was a post that I literally had nothing to do with. Someone had posted that picture of me with the big nose and the big forehead and compared me to the dude from the Star Wars with the fucking wings. Yay, Anakin. You know, that dude, which was funny, but whatever. And then people just start talking shit about me, and it's like, well, I didn't even do anything this time. And so I don't think I've talked about this because, no, it wasn't. It was on, I haven't. It was on Friday at 10 p.m. that I dropped the hammer. But this dumb son of a bitch wrote, "Karma will get him. Just sit back and watch." Now, I had been keeping my eye on that post, and I think I talked about it on here. The guy who initially wrote had my forehead or that picture of me and Watto from Star Wars. I looked at his pics. I think I talked about it here, and I couldn't really find anything devastating. You know, I never want to go square peg, round hole. It has to be something that as soon as I see it, I know there's a joke there. So poor Ed wrote, "Karma will get him. Just sit back and watch." So I went ahead and clicked on his pics, and here he is with his wife. They got on their wedding day. And she's really, really big, really, really gigantic. "Karma will get him. Just sit back and watch." And I wrote, "Only if your wife's name is Karma and I turn into a Twinkie." And motherfucker. This guy, he even deleted his post. That's why I always screenshot these. I'll post on it and then I'll screenshot it because he went ahead and deleted it right away. This guy, Nick here, he says, and this, I've seen this 1 million times. "I truly had empathy for you during one of the hardest times in your life after leaving Freebird and Outwings. That's why it's disappointing to see you now publicly shaming people. It doesn't seem like a healthy or productive way to move forward." I said, "You should feel empathy now. I had to see that image." Kyle wrote, "Yeah, well, I'm sorry you're disappointed, but he puts a smile on my face every time this happens because he never starts it." 100% true. I wrote back to that twat and I said, I'm glad you are here. We have plenty of room for righteous virtue signalers. Bless your heart, hero. Fuck you. Easy. You can't shame people. Well, look, it's a fight. That's why they call it a fight. All right? Bob says, I emailed you a picture about this because we can't comment pics on your Facebook. Huh? Okay. Let's see. I don't see it. All right. Francis says that is really funny. I appreciate you saying that. Bob said he sent it on Saturday. Okay, hang on. I'll play your silly game. Robert Jones. Probably the most common name on the planet. Robert Jones. Okay, so in one of the lamest Photoshops ever, he put Karma's face on Jabba the Hutt and put the dude on Princess Leia. All right, Bob, you dummy. Thank you for participating. I'm getting reminded about the meeting for the radio station. I will get to that momentarily. Bread Bowl Brain Chris says, this is what the BetterHelp sponsorship has unleashed. Their whole audience is entirely into their feelings now. Okay. Thank you for being here. I am off to the radio station meeting. You can message pics, but can't comment pics, Easy. That's why I had to message the People's Champ logo. I appreciate that. Yeah, I got